The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
You guys ready?
What the hell?
Cold opening.
Okay, this is my favorite label.
What the hell?
Maybe I will handwrite each one of them.
Should we? With your handwriting,
should
that's
we pour
amazing.
something?
All right, who's got a pour?
I got a pour.
Great. All right, a Bart pour. Bart on blue. All right.
Did you already check all these?
You are recording, right?
I am.
Are we good?
Who
So-
is
Talk about a cold opening.
Get that in the glass.
ice cold, glacial?
Get that in there.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Winemakers. I'm John Myers, in a very good mood this morning. Beautiful day in Sonoma with Brian Casey, Bart Hansen, and Sam Couturi on a new releases Dane Cellars Day, huh?
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that?
Hey, Bart, you
Sounds
make Chenin
good.
Blanc?
I was
I
going
mean,
to
a
ask
little
that too. So,
I actually dumped twice as much as I made.
I dropped Chenin Blanc.
Yeah,
Dropping the Chenin Blanc today. No, not that kind.
I think dumped is the right word.
so
Dumped.
everything
Busted.
did come out
down
okay
on
after the
Chenin
amphora, right?
I'm never saying again.
This is the Chenin that was
This
not
is
in
the
the amphora.
non-amphora Chenin.
All right.
Right.
Or did you? Or did you have a shop vac and you
Wet dry.
sucked it all
Wet
up?
dry on wet.
Right. Definitely had to be filtered.
A little filtering going on.
No, there was last year we bought a full ton, and it was a heavy ton of Chenin Blanc from the
Wait,
Fry
what's a
Ranch.
heavy ton?
Just meaning that,
Did you ever buy drugs, Brian?
He ate heavy.
When you bought some weed,
Not in
and
tons.
that ounce was like 30 grams instead of 28 because the dealer hooked you up. Was a bro, home and dad.
No, that never
Never
happened.
happened to you?
It was 26
Yeah, exactly. 26 and it was half stems.
Yeah, totally.
seeds and stems.
the thought, Brian, is that I'll take 2 bins and it's about a ton, right?
Okay.
And in certain varieties, it's never a ton. Like 2 bins is never a ton of Cabernet, but
No,
2 bins
sometimes it's like 2/3 of a ton of Cabernet, right?
right? But 2 tons of Zinfandel. I mean, 2 bins of Zinfandel could be like 1.25 tons.
Wow.
In this case, Chenin, this was a little over a ton in 2 bins.
Okay.
And so when we pressed it, revisiting this whole story, we filled the amphora first, and then there was enough to fill a barrel, and then a keg that we fermented the last bit of juice in. And so when the amphora hit its demise, we were left with 1 barrel and some topping wine.
Amphora. Ouch. I apologize.
Yeah, I guess.
That's a really good one. I can't believe it's taken this long.
Seriously.
And
It
are
took
you
a
still
year
sending
fermenting on that one.
Are you still sending pieces of the amphora out?
I don't know if we're going to do that or not. I just saw it in my shed the other day, and I thought, I guess I need to start breaking it into small pieces.
Bart,
and stick
That
it
seems
in.
like a Dane job.
Breaking up pieces
Yeah.
of amphora.
Hard labor.
Totally like,
Yeah.
hand a teenager a sledgehammer and tell him to
Right.
break a bunch of shit.
Right.
That's probably
Well, I mean, that
probably
right,
save
Sam.
some therapy bills on it or
right.
something.
That was the thought, is sending a piece of amphora in with everyone. Todd Jolly has one. He wants to hang on the wall down at Sonoma's Best.
Did you sign it?
He has a piece. That's what we're waiting for, as I haven't signed it yet. So
That would be amazing, though, Bart, if you sent in.
Sent
if you
everybody a
sent-
little piece
yeah,
of
that
amphora.
would actually be super
and
cool.
with no explanation. That would be the best, because then you'd know
Right.
who listens to podcasts or watches
Right.
social media and who doesn't.
And
Right.
who's just buying wine.
Right.
Because we have a
Unless
pretty
you
cool
just buy
unboxing going on with our shipment. So it would be cool if you did something like that too. It would be the ultimate unboxing
Duo?
winemakers podcast fall shipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm on it, Brian. I'm
Okay,
on it.
cool. No, that I would be so stoked if I got a piece of amphora.
Well,
Reached into the box, grabbed my Chenin Blanc, and
my
sliced
finger.
my hand. Yeah, exactly.
It comes with a waiver.
You've got a very cool package going out with all your wines right now.
Are we supposed to reveal it, or are we
No, I don't
No.
think you
supposed to
are.
wait until
all
people
right,
open it?
all right.
Yeah.
Right.
We're
I don't know.
Then I won't.
I mean, I was totally the kid who would go to the birthday party and be like, "Here, Timmy, I got you a puzzle." Right?
Yeah.
Like I would hand the present wrapped and be like, "This is what I." So I'm with you, John, but I think that we should probably err to our better angels and
Well, there
make
are.
people.
How many are out already?
Oh, only a handful.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, we're just getting rolling right now. We're busy. It's a busy time of year around here. There's a bunch of things going on, including why we're gathered here today, which we haven't even said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're gathered here today.
I just swirled the wine and then smelled the microphone. Sorry.
And the first
Can we start this over?
take two.
So anyway, back
Bart,
to the
what
wine.
What are we
Yes.
doing, Bart?
So this is the barrel fermented piece of the 2022 Fry Ranch Chenin. So new source for us, thanks to our friends over at Las Jarras for the hookup on the ton of
cool.
fruit. It's
Shout out
beautiful.
Joel, Randy,
Yep, Joel, Randy.
Natalie, who's gonna listen to this on her Saturday morning run.
Right. So and the wine's delicious. I'm very excited about it. 24 cases were all that's made. So this is the first time for Dane Cellars that our wine club folks are getting wines that will not be offered to the general public until they've had their chance.
Nice.
So, and there will actually be 3 wines of that nature.
Okay.
And we'll see if we keep doing it going forward. It's just all going to depend on production and how many people start joining the wine club that weren't able to get it.
Right.
So
what you're saying is, if you want your chance at one of these 24 cases of Chenin Blanc,
you probably should.
sign up before you listen to this.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Yeah.
you haven't signed up yet,
Yeah.
it's too late for you.
No, you can.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? A sale's a sale, Sam. Didn't you learn that in school?
I
Bill?
proudly crashed a pool party this weekend and convinced the host to drop one of his wine clubs to join 16600 Phil sent me. So yes, no, I'm with you. Sale is a
Wait,
sale.
which one did he drop? Can you tell us?
Foxen.
Oh, yeah.
And here's what happened. And this is like
That's because the Fox and Chenin's not as good as mine, and they'll end up buying my Chenin from
Here,
them.
we'll send him a link. Foxen sent him a postcard that said, "Thank you for being a member for 7 years. Here's a 5% discount."
Oh, that was sweet.
Right? And he's just like, he was totally offended by it
Yeah.
because if you really care, the whole thing. So we started the conversation there, and I wasn't even part of that conversation. I sort of just eavesdropped on it, and then, found an opening.
Pulled a joke. and
Pulled a
you were
joke.
in.
Totally. I was like, yeah, no, if you're in my wine club, I'll send you a card that says, "Thanks for being a member. Here's a postcard to spend 5% more."
All right, so when are these going out? When are you?
So this is going to air on Friday, presumably.
Grenache Day.
On Grenache Day.
Yeah.
And
Hey, happy Grenache Day.
Happy Grenache Day.
Happy Grenache Day, everyone.
Grenache weekend.
Newsletter is going
Yeah.
out next week. And we'll be ready as soon as people start answering.
Cool.
We're going to give them a little time to decide what they want.
Yep.
To place their orders, add to their orders, secure their piece of amphora,
Yes.
and go from there. So,
Limited deal.
I mean, Brian, you're so in love with the 16 Buddha's Dharma.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely, slightly different in style, but you have any kind of thoughts on it?
Oh, it's amazing. You don't know how I actually woke up and remembered that we were doing this podcast today, and I got excited because it's been a while since I tasted a Dane Cellars lineup. Like I used to come to, your spot, your
Right.
cellar,
Taste
and
your
actually
things.
get to taste stuff out of barrel, and I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm super jazzed to actually try
Cool.
these wines today.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm a Chenin fan, so
Yeah.
this is fucking delicious.
So it's really delicious. It was whole cluster pressed, went into a 10-year-old French oak barrel, fermented nice and slowly, went bone dry, finished ML, It was lightly filtered just for clarity, but it's not sterile filtered, and there you go.
Yeah.
I like the notes on the bottle too.
Thank you. I did.
Yeah.
So I did change the notes. I went away from trying to tell a story and a paragraph that you couldn't read, to just some things that I think are important that interest me when I look on the bottom, on
Read
the
them,
back
Sam.
of a bottle.
Picked August 25th, 2022. For reference, do you know
Wow.
what it's at? Here we are, 15 days after that, 16 days.
Yeah.
Do you know what what the
I
first-
don't.
you
I
not
don't,
yet? Okay,
no.
but it hasn't. Needless to say,
It has not.
it has
been
not
picked,
been picked yet.
and it doesn't sound like it's in a hurry.
Whole, like nothing else. Whole cluster pressed, spontaneous fermentation, produced from organically grown grapes, planted in the 1960s and tea-budded in 2015. Conejo clay loam soils, aged and fermented for 6 months, neutral French oak. Reuse or refill this bottle. Cheers. www.danecellars.com.
There you
Nice.
go. So,
But it's all relevant. I mean, that's interesting information for me.
I love putting the planted date and the tea budded date on there.
Yeah.
Just to like spur that conversation.
yeah.
There's so many vineyards. Viognier from Steel Plow. Sauvignon Blanc, places that whatever they planted there, it either wasn't working anymore, or the market changed, or they wanted to do something differently, and you tea bud, or top bud, cut over these vines, and a huge amount of the vineyards across the world have had this happen to them.
Yeah.
And we don't really talk about it that often.
I mean, the story I heard, this is not confirmed, is that this was tea-budded over to Chenin for Chris Brockway, right? Brock Cellars, right, in Berkeley or Oakland. And then he left the contract to pursue Chenin from somewhere else, and I don't remember where that is. And that's when Las Harris picked up and Las Harris has a lease on the property, so
really?
they're having it farmed to their specs, and have done a lot to already to increase soil health, because it had really ugly numbers as far as the ammonias and stuff. So anyway, it turned out really nice. I had no problem with the fermentation.
No,
So,
it's great.
delicious.
It's super racy.
So
Totally.
had
If it was on a wine list, it's in that's divided by styles. It's in the racy whites.
Yeah.
For sure.
had the amphora survived, how different would it be taste wise?
Well, I mean, that's a conversation we can have with the next two wines.
What a segue.
But what a segue. But I would say that this to me has a little bit of a sweetness, a little bit of a roundness, that I think would probably come off as a more mineral based flavor, is about the best way I could guess, because I actually don't even know. I mean, I know that from
It's sort of an impossible question.
right, the
Yeah, understood.
The 2016 Chenin Blanc, we fermented, and Brian knows this because he tasted this almost as much as I did. I tasted a third of it in concrete, a third of it in oak, and a third of it in stainless steel. And the third of it that was in the concrete definitely had a salinity to it. It had that kind of wet, hot concrete sense to it.
Yeah.
But the wine was definitely better with all three of them together than it was separately.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so the next wine that we can start pouring.
I wasn't drinking out of that.
Don't.
Just
This
spit
is
back-
why
spit
we're
back
not
in the
on.
water
Yeah,
glass.
this is why we're not on YouTube. So the
This is
next
a radio
wine,
show only, folks.
right? So the next wine is it's technically the second time we've released one of the wines, but we still have quite a bit left. So because of the new release, which is the 2019 Valeria from the Rossi Ranch, I had a 60-gallon sandstone amphora that I aged it in for the entire time.
So as opposed to the ceramic.
It's speaking to the ceramic, or sandstone. It's Italian made, this thing that I
Right.
bought.
But is it like molded, or does it like carved out of. I don't quite.
No, it's molded.
So they like take sandstone.
Yeah,
Turn
and
it
mix it
into-
with their binder, whatever that is.
Right,
You know, it's a certain amount of clay. Fire it.
Okay.
So it's more sandstone based, maybe, as opposed to clay based.
Clay or whatever.
Yeah,
How much does it hold?
and 60 gallons.
Okay.
And the idea.
So the size of a regular barrel.
Yeah. Stands on end. So.
Meanwhile, Brian's just pouring himself
More
more
Chenin.
Chenin.
I'm drinking more Chenin. I fucking love this. It's great, Bart. Yeah. I mean, it's like dried apricot, lemon verbena, and then on the finish, almost like a little bit of like this burnt toast. Yeah, it's fucking delicious.
I'm super curious on this amphora versus non-amphora.
Right. So
And there's none of the amphora in the regular Valeria.
there's none of the amphora in the regular Valeria.
And the amphora Valeria is 100, just the 25
Just-
cases or whatever.
Yep.
From that
Yep.
60 gallon.
Yep.
Sandstone.
Yep.
So
And,
then,
and I will say that I think that. Well, I'm
So
going
this
to
is
hold
the
this thought
regular one,
until
John.
we taste
and
it.
our wine club members going to get a bottle of each.
They're going to get a bottle of each.
Oh,
yeah.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the regular one.
And so, would you encourage them to open up both bottles at the same time and do a little side by side?
Absolutely.
You
And
gotta buy
well,
extra.
and I'll tell you what, and the reason why I encourage them to do that, because both these wines, 2019s, both these wines are still very young, and they're just going to benefit so much from being open for a day. That I think that if you opened up 2 bottles on a Friday night and drank, had a couple glasses out of each one of them, and did the comparison, and then came back 2 days later or the next day and did the same thing. So
I mean,
Okay, so
right
Clarity
away,
looks the same.
the amphora's
Color difference.
darker
Is it?
color.
Is
oh
it?
yeah.
for
So
sure.
it was the
Just got a little
same
more in
length of elevage, same length of time in the
Okay.
barrel in the amphora.
so two things going on with it is actually the amphora spent more time
Okay.
elevage,
By how much time?
about 3 months.
Okay.
And then it was racked into a barrel and bottled out of a barrel. So its only time in barrel was, for a week or so before it was bottled.
Transition.
Just
The
for
transition.
like.
Sam, I taste
Logistics.
that difference in color. I
Oh,
actually
yeah,
do.
absolutely.
I mean,
I mean,
it
just
just seems
looking
like
at
it's
them,
a fuller
They're
wine.
clearly, the traditional barrel is more of the classic garnet that you expect of Grenache, and the amphora is much darker. Do you think? I
God,
know
these are good.
it's a 68-32 blend based on what Miguel told you coming out of the vineyard.
Right.
So there is.
Well, I mean, that was weights, right?
Oh, that was- so
Because
that
they were
you-
weighed separately.
Okay.
So I know that's that.
Is it possible?
That there's a little more Mourvedre in the
in the
amphora.
Yeah. I haven't tasted it yet. I'm just just on color. I haven't even smelled it.
I think there's a possibility there's a little more Mourvedre in the amphora.
Were they separate fermentations?
They were
Just-
separate fermentations, yes. Yeah. They were separate fermentations.
So as you were crushing.
So what I did is I as I was crushing, I approximated, the two fermentations, right? And then fermented them all the way through. And then when I started to dejuice before pressing, I filled the amphora out of the amphora fermenter, and then I filled some barrels I filled the large format barrel.
Wait. You were using one of those those egg shaped fermenters that are down there?
No. I just 2 different fermenters. One of them was an open top, and one of them was the small tea bin.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 different fermentations, but then separating them out at that point. It again, not a completely perfect experiment,
Right.
but the gist of it is the
Yeah.
gist of it. So, and so I think there might be slightly more Mourvedre, but then I also associate the better color in the amphora based one is that it's not as oxidative.
Let's not be judging on the. It's not necessarily a better color.
No.
It's
No.
just
I,
more-
like, no,
Yeah.
You're
And
exactly right. I misused the word. It's not a better color.
Classic,
the deeper,
classic wine
it's a deeper
talk,
color.
yes, maybe. But
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
deeper
Grenache.
color, but it's Grenache. No, I've
And the
no,
aroma,
this-
I don't know if you guys have smelled them. The aromas are different.
yeah. The barrel,
Oh,
the barrel was definitely a more oxidative aging system. Like
So,
the
maybe
amphora,
more color falling out.
correct.
It's really interesting to see these two
Yeah.
and to understand the way they were made and the difference in it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I always like to do an A/B testing, no matter what. Beautiful stuff.
To me, the amphora, the aromatics are very different than the barrel.
I hope
Yeah.
you made a lot of this.
And that's the point of the amphora, I think. And I've had the chance to taste other things similar to this, and it always seems like the vessel made of something other than, whether it's concrete or clay or sandstone, it always has a less classic aroma.
How much was the production on this?
Wow. Different wines.
Totally.
That's super cool.
Both delicious. I think I like the amphora better.
I like them both. I'm thinking
You like more.
different time. I'm drinking this one during the day. I'm drinking this one at night.
Okay.
Day
Yeah.
drinking and I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
So these were, again, fermented together.
Right.
Fermentation curves were very, very similar. They kind of went dry at the same time, left them sit on their skins for a little bit, and then dejuiced them, and then pressed them together. So
So co-fermented
co-fermented the Grenache and Mourvedre together.
Grenache and Mourvedre. Right. Okay.
But only. Well, I guess not really, because if you pressed it together, you kind of like from the press a little bit went into one and a little bit went into the other.
I mean, when you're small production like this,
yeah, you just
there's no other ways around it, right?
totally. You can't do 2 press loads.
Right.
What is your production?
Again, the majority of it was dejuiced out, so But I think the whole point is to see the difference. Did the amphora make an impact on the wine?
So for shits and giggles, what you had 1 barrel essentially of the amphora. How many barrels of the regular fermentation? Was there?
There was.
We're watching the headquarters being painted by hand right now, and
It's terrifying.
and ladder ballet going on. It's just pretty amazing to watch.
Sorry. I need to be facing the other way.
Trade seats.
So basically what it was, Sam, it was a puncheon of the barrel fermented,
Right.
the
Barrel aged, yeah.
the barrel aged, the barrel of sandstone, the 59 gallons worth of
Right.
sandstone, and then a small barrel that got used for topping for everything.
So for
Oh, you're blending your own?
A little more.
Yeah. Kind of curious too.
super scientific
Yeah,
blending session
it
here.
looks like
We
it.
have a graduated cylinder inside, but we just keep that around for when Isabel shows up. I don't think any of us are qualified to use it.
The exacting Isabelle Gossier. Hey, that's why she makes beautiful wines, man.
I mean, to me, both wines are, to my experience with Rossi fruit, both of them have this, texture and kind of tannin structure that reminds me, whether it's your wines. I had a Carlisle, right? Yeah, Carlisle, fairly recently, and my other vintage and the current vintages of this. They have it's a signature to it,
Right.
without a doubt,
Right.
And there's a grittiness to the tannins, so
Yeah, no, it is a Rossi Ranch Rhone.
Right.
For sure. That spice box characteristic.
And I go back to my same thing, kind of with the discussion about yours. Like, it'd be really cool to work with some Rossi Syrah, but I really like these two varieties, and I don't really want to put any Syrah into it because I think I'll always be questioning, was it too much or not enough?
Right.
Where this kind of blend, is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I love the science of the amphora versus not amphora. I think the next time you do this,
They're just going together.
Yeah, it's because that's
Right.
it's a more complete wine.
Right. Right.
They're both delicious, but together it's like that's why we do Rhones.
Right.
Because you get that combination where the whole is
synergy.
worth the sum more than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
Speaking of, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and then, so on that note, what's going on right now is the amphora right now has 2022 Malbec from Lazy Dog.
Okay.
It will have been in the barrel or been in the container for like a year. And so I'm going to do a rack. I'm going to rack the 2022 Rossies this week to kind of put them away for harvest. But then I'm going to put some of it back to the amphora for the rest of its aging. So I'll pull the Malbec out, throw the Malbec in a barrel, and then switch it out.
Like rotate through the amphora.
Yeah, because I like what it does to the wine. I mean, I'm probably I might even bottle this one barrel of the Malbec separately, at least look at it, because it's just a cool thing to be able to share.
Yeah.
We'll have 50 cases of the 2022 Malbec that would be barrel aged, and 25 that would be in the thing. And but again, maybe the sum of the whole is better. So we'll see.
Well, Bart, what's the difference in the blend of the Valeria from the vintage before this?
So the vintage before was 100% Grenache. The 2018 was 100% Grenache. That was my first year.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah.
Because
No.
this, if I remember, I mean, to me, this tastes softer than the last time I had Valeria. But if you're saying it was 100% Grenache before.
That to me is the vintage more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
18, I mean, you've seen the 18s in here. Sometimes the 20, the 19s and the 21s and the 22s are more ready right now than the 18s. Or the 18s are just taking forever to come around. And it's just that vintage. It was big, tannic, tight vintage.
Yeah.
That's still, if you're the people who are like who are collecting these and laying them down, lay down the 18s, drink the 19s sooner. I mean, I think that about our wines too.
And it is sticking with the 2019 red profile that I've had of all of the wines from Sonoma Napa. The aromatics are fucking amazing.
19 was a great year.
Yeah.
Better than 18.
What made it so good, Sam?
Rain.
That's a positive.
Yeah, no, rain. If you recall, I recall well because it was the week of Althea's birth. We had that epic atmospheric river that flooded out Sebastopol and Pax Cellars and all through Forest Rio Negro down the Russian River. As I was like calling, calling people, to tell them that Althea was born standing in the parking lot of Sutter Santa Rosa, and there was an inch of standing water in the parking lot. It had just been like raining, astrology or whatever. Basically, Althea showed up and the rain started at the same time that afternoon. Monday, February, come with it, 25th, 2019, and didn't stop raining for like 3 or 4 days. But that, it was a wet, rainy winter in general. There was snow that winter.
Yep.
That was the first time Braden skied Mayacamas.
Right.
So, you go into that. There was actually a fairly early bud break, but just kind of like cruised through. There was no calamity, nothing, just really healthy vines. Perfect year. Crop layers, a little lighter than 18, but still kind of a big year. It's just one of those ones. One of those, I think, again, drink sooner than later kind of vintages in the way that like 16 is.
Right.
But totally, you know, the 18s are going to lag behind in drinking window for
What
sure.
percent of all of your customers actually lay wine down or drink it right away when they get it?
I don't know.
I mean,
It's a
Give me a
Not-
feeling, you know?
yeah, you know, I think based on what you see hitting Instagram, 30% lay them down for a while, 30% lay them down for a shorter while, and 30% drink them within the 6 months between releases. It's a rough number.
And then it's also hard to tell because, like, you're always pulling out gems to sell to people.
Right.
You know, I have people that call and say, "Hey, do you have a little bit more 2015 cab?" And you know, so then they drink what they have and they buy some more and stuff. So it's a little hard to tell.
Right.
So-
We do the aging for some people. I mean, we lay it, and like I said with our
I mean,
release.
These alone,
So,
2019,
yeah, I
and
was gonna
just really
say.
just being released. So,
Right.
When did you bottle these?
so I bottled the amphora in March, but I bottled
Of this
year, but I had bottled the barrels back in whatever it was, July or August
Okay.
of last year.
Of-
So it's also been in the barrel.
So they were in barrel for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
3+ on the amphora.
That makes a big difference too.
It's called cash flow, Sam.
No, I understand. I'm surprised you left it going that long.
Well, I mean the
Or you were waiting for more inflow so that you could
right.
do the ad flow
Yeah.
and the bottling costs.
And again, though, you know, I also felt that the wines all, you know, the 18, if anything, the 18 should have been left in barrel longer. I was so excited about getting my first Rossi fruit. I wanted it in tank. I wanted to get it bottled and start selling it. And realistically, it probably could have spent another 6+ months in barrel. Because it does have that tannin, and you know, and that was the first time I had really ever worked with stems in 2018. And there's a certain impression of the stems that I get from the 18. I cut back the amount of stems in the 2019, and that impression is still there, but it's much more, you know, manageable in my, at least in my memory. So that's kind of interesting. Again, we always talk about the one chance we get a year to work on something. So that kind of goes along with it.
Is there an optimal time to age in barrels? I mean, or is it just depend on?
It depends on the
varietal?
wine and the winemaker's goal. You know,
What's the longest you've ever kept?
Well, do we have to tell this story again? The
Contango.
Contango.
That's right.
Ven conmigo. Wait, no, that's the Spanish.
52 months in barrels, you know.
But, you know,
but there's
Rioja, Portuguese, you know, there's places that's extended elevage 4 or 5 years in barrel is standard practice. And then there's people who, you know, bottle in after 8 or 9 months in barrel for red wine, and everything in between. And you go longer in barrel for, you know, port and
yeah, of
all
course,
these other
yeah.
things. So
it's all about the health of the wine.
Yeah.
You know, and if the wine is healthy and is benefiting from the time in the barrels, then that's that. But again, John, it's you know, ask a bunch of winemakers, they'll give you all different opinions.
How often do you taste it in barrel to determine the health?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How often do you taste it in barrels to determine that health? Is it still getting better?
I mean, I don't have a math problem, like I don't have a calendar of when I taste things. It's more of a matter of like whatever's going on, you know, check in on things. I try not to open barrels just for the sake of opening and taking a sample out of them to taste. So it's usually when I'm topping them up or doing some sort of process that I go through my tastings. I mean, there's always a time where you go and just pull samples, but again, it's a lot of it has to do with just understanding the health of the wine. I know that when the grapes come in, they're in good shape, they're healthy, right? They've been managed correctly. As long as the fermentation is, doesn't have any problems, and they, going into barrels, there's no problems, whether it's numerically or, or organic, or I'm not going to try to say it, or organopleptically. Yeah, forget it.
That's a big word.
It is a big
I've
word.
never
Is
even
it a
heard
real
it.
word?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
We'll get back to you, all you listeners, about that. Someone just used it recently. Maybe it was MJ used it. And I said, nice use of that word.
Well, MJ went to law school. He might not have finished law school, but he went to law school.
yeah.
Way more.
I think he
educated than
finished
me.
law school. He just didn't take the bar.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, still
Yeah.
more.
Shout
school.
out to you, MJ.
I went to school for as long, but I
Actually,
acquired
look at
less
that.
degrees.
Um,
Oh, you're wearing your Black Wine Guy T-shirt.
so,
He's got some good shows popping right now.
he does.
I'm interested in this one that he just dropped with the NBA guy.
Yeah.
So
But so anyway, John, the health of the wine is just something that you have to just pay attention from the minute the grapes come in, and that gives you your ideas of where to go with it.
and
So-
early analysis will determine later on levels of stress.
Yeah. Perfect.
If you that first ETS or Myenologics or whatever monologist or all these different places you can send a sample off to comes back and everything's freaking clean as a whistle, and the yans are high and the acids are high and the whole thing, then you're probably not going to worry about that barrel for a while. If it comes back and there's some like borderline problematic things, you might be a little more fussy about it.
What are those problems that they indicate?
Well, whether Brettanomyces or VA or any of the things that are categorized as flaws, there's a threshold for when they actually start to affect the wine, and if things are 0 or below testable range, then you don't worry about it. If things start to creep up a little bit or show up a little bit, then you're like, all right, well, pay more attention to these barrels.
Yeah, and it's a multifaceted kind of question because, every vintage is a little bit different. Every vineyard is going to be different depending on the farmer, and I'm not talking about necessarily the farmers that we use, but when you look at large wineries where you have large amounts of fruits coming in from vineyards and stuff. So it's really a place by place analysis and wine by wine or even lot by lot analysis that determines that.
How is Rossi Ranch looking today? You've been out there lately?
I was out about a week and a half ago, and it was looking perfect.
Almost verated.
Yeah, almost verated. They had obviously been through and kind of adjusted clusters and cleaned up, dropped some big greens, and took off some shoulders, and looked beautiful. It was a low obsidian harvest, low obsidian.
You didn't kick up a lot of black rock.
Not a lot.
Right.
But the vineyard looked beautiful.
We cultivate less.
Right.
That's part of it.
Right.
Isn't it every other row that got disked out
Right,
there?
yeah. So,
What did I miss?
nothing. Just talking more about like health of wines.
Did you
and
just
stuff.
sell some sold out tickets?
Yes.
Okay. Which
I think is going to be happening all week. So
I know.
at some point you're probably going to have to turn that thing off.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it off soon. It's the Bill Graham said. Another Bill Graham said on this that Bill Graham didn't believe in sellouts. If somebody wanted to buy a ticket, there was always a ticket to be sold.
Right. Maybe not through him and
Well,
his things, but yeah.
I told our hosts for Vinyl Sunday, the people who own the Denmark Street property, because they bring a bunch of guests, and I said, that's all good. You can have as many guests as you want. Just know that any overages of capacity are your guests, not mine.
Right. So when that porta potty overflows,
Yeah, exactly.
that was your
we
people.
got 2 porta potties. We doubled up. I gotta go in a minute.
Okay, let's
so-
taste this
okay.
last wine then,
Okay.
or at least one of them. So pour out.
Wait. I want to try both.
Well, no. Well, right.
You guys
So first of all, pour out both your glasses. I want you to pour the Malbec into one glass, and I want you to go back and forth a couple times, and then pour yourself a taste, because this is a great example of what a little decanting can do on a
Oh, like taste what I pour back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I need more then.
But how do we know it's?
Well, you
We need to
keep
taste
track
it at
of
first.
You need to keep track. No, you can pour a second glass.
Okay. Oh, okay. I got you.
Right.
I see what
So
you're saying.
pour one.
You missed your calling as like a science teacher, man. You know, 5th grade, but a science teacher.
Mr. Hanson.
Yeah. No.
Hands up.
I just sat in on Dane's back to school night for Dane's AP physics class. And she goes, "Who loves physics?" And I said, "I like what happens because of physics, but I don't understand physics."
Or this is glass staining.
So, this is 2020 Malbec from Lazy Dog Vineyard. Shout out to Steve and Dana.
Lots of decanting.
Malbec in general is a variety that wants to kind of go reduced.
There was a little, especially that first splash, a tiny bit of reduction that I was smelling there.
Yeah, I mean, it wants to do it. It wants to do it in the fermenter. It's funny. I've recently had conversations with other winemakers that work with it, and we all kind of talk about it. Like, what do you do?
So what do you do?
You introduce some more oxygen to it, like during fermentation. This wine did not get reduced at all in the fermenter. But I also, because I'm pretty hands off, maybe looking back at it now, and going forward, I would have racked this and introduced a little bit of oxygen to kind of help it a little. Yep, help it along. But this first one, I really love this wine. This wine is like got intensity. It's concentrated. It needs time.
But Bart, it also has great acidity.
Got great acidity, and the fruit.
I don't think of Malbec as having great acidity. This thing is making me drool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to associate that to why I think where Lazy Dog is and where it's grown is pretty exciting, because it's definitely the cooler part of Sonoma Valley, southern Sonoma Valley, kind of like where we were talking about where your Cabernet vineyard is, right? Or Stone Edge. Definitely gets, the fog, the morning fog that a lot of the other part of the valley doesn't get. And it's grown on a rock garden.
Yeah.
There's soil on top, but you can't put a shovel in the ground. That's so.
Do you know why Steve decided to plant Malbec there when he did?
I told him to.
Well, no, it was already planted.
When they bought the property,
it was when they bought it, and it was determined by, I think, Phil was farming it, and Maya Thomas was helped Steve through a lot of this in his early education of buying this property. But if I remember right, it was already planted to Cab and Malbec when Phil came in and took over the farming.
That sounds highly likely.
And so why, I'm not sure. Previously, the grapes they'd gone to Benziger, they'd gone to Valley of the Moon, they'd gone to a couple of Napa wineries. That was always kind of made by a Napa winemaker, or at least that kind of style, which like let it sit. We got to burn off pyrazines, like just let it sit, let it go ahead and start dimpling. We don't care how ripe it gets.
Because they were going to blend it.
I got a boogie.
Yeah,
but I dig this. Cool. I'm not a Malbec
totally.
fan, but I totally
I know.
dig it.
Yeah.
I know this is
Boogie on, brother.
This is my fave so far. This thing is. How much
Sam
of this
Curry
did you make?
not on assignment.
This first year it was just like 23 cases.
Wow.
So, so let me just finish my thought.
Yeah, totally.
So, and it's grown on a rock garden, and so there is a certain amount. It's not like big lush soils. Like the vines get in stress.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful spot. This year the canopy looks amazing. It all looks really great. But when we picked this, we picked it kind of when we thought it was right, and when the other winery thought it was getting close, and now Morgan from Bedrock is getting the entire vineyard, exception of the little bit that I get from the 2 varieties.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really cool to see what goes on going forward.
I just don't see a lot of Malbec in Sonoma Valley. That's why I was surprised. Like, I wonder who decided to plant it there.
There's Imagery has some,
but theirs was like,
Malbec
if I remember,
planted.
it was North Coast.
Yes, it was Lake County, but
Right.
it was from the Ron Bartolucci Ranch.
And then they were blending, I think, with
Correct.
other Malbec. Right.
But they do have some Malbec at the Imagery site. There's Malbec planted on that property
on Sunny Slope.
next to Sunny Slope.
Okay.
Okay. There's a little vineyard right over here on like 7th Street East of Malbec,
Mhm.
very much valley floor, big heavy soils,
Right.
surrounded in trees.
Lazy Malbec.
I mean, who knows what sort of wine it makes? It's kind of intriguing, but
Yeah.
just different.
Right.
There's Steve's, and I'm sure there's some more around, but there's not much. No,
Yeah.
there's not much Malbec around planted,
Period.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Totally.
But you can see how, and again, the reason why I have you splash it, because to me, this wine is tasting really delicious.
Fucking great, Bart.
The question is get it out and let people age it themselves and start tasting it. Like, it'd be easy to go, we're going to hold on to it for a while before releasing it, but I want people to start
I
experiencing
mean, you
it
could, but
now.
people like wine like this.
Yeah, and
they
want to watch it evolve.
and they just like full flavor. I mean, this is full flavor. This with a steak with a hunk of like blue cheese butter melted over the top of it.
There you
Fuck
go.
me.
Well, you should be very proud of these wines this year, man.
I'm
Very.
extremely proud of them.
Yeah. Boy, the Malbec and the Valeria, 2 completely different animals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have a wide range here on the table.
And again, 2020 vintage. Not a lot of wines. This was harvested before.
Well, yeah. Talk to that, because those are going to be questions that people will ask. Hey,
Yeah. I mean, this was harvested before this smoke really hit Sonoma Valley.
Right.
Was there smoke in the air on the day this was picked? Yes, but it was high in elevation. The fires at that point were burning out in the Russian River, that part of the county, and then northern Napa Valley.
Right.
It was after this was picked that the fire burned from Napa over into Sonoma and or more Santa Rosa, Kenwood area, right?
And
In 2020.
there's zero perceivable any kind of smoke flavor on this. And then the thing that I think 16600 found out with the one red wine that they tried to make in 2020 was that you couldn't perceive any smoke, but it totally muted or masked the fruit on the one wine they tried to make. And this for sure is not the case on this wine.
Right.
This is like full blue fruit. I think you're gonna have some happy people with the
Beautiful,
with the
beautiful
Malbec.
this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then going forward, we will have Cabernet and Malbec both from Lazy Dog.
And then are you going to do them separately or blend them together?
So we'll have a 2021 Lazy Dog Cabernet.
Mhm.
And then in 20, there wasn't enough Malbec in 21 for me. And then in 22, we'll have both Malbec and Cabernet from Lazy Dog. We'll see about if we blend them together or do them separately or do all 3. You know, again, I think time will tell with that. Those wines are still really young.
Yeah.
I mean, but very much in the style of this, like intense fruit, but just young and impressionable.
And when Bedrock took it all, what were they doing with the Malbec?
So I mean, this is their first year, was last year, 2022, with the property. I know Bedrock does a Sonoma Valley Cabernet blend.
Okay.
And I think this is part of that.
Right.
Their vineyard designated sites are like Montecillo, way up at the top of the Moon Mountain District, Monte Rosa, right? But they've always, or they've started to produce this Sonoma Valley. You know, they have what they call the Grenache blend, Grambles in the Sky, which is Grenaches from different parts of the state.
Right.
Just a different kind of level of wine for them.
Right.
You know, they make enough wines, you may as well add some more.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're looking at this for, I believe.
Okay.
So.
But you are going to be able to get some of it, or is it every year it's going to be kind of a...
No. In 2021, the reason why I didn't get it, it was a Napa winery that was getting the fruit, and there was very little in 2021. And Steve said, you can have some, and I said, no, it's okay. It worked out better for me anyway.
Okay.
Inventory control.
Right.
If we can get 20 or 30 more wine club members in the next year or so, then we'll start having those problems. Right now, we're good. So
no, I think it's great to have the different rose. And I mean, do you want to talk about, well, hopefully we're going to try the Zin, but do you want to talk about your rosé a little bit? Or can people order that if they're getting this shipment? Do you still have any rosé?
I have, yes.
Sauvignon Blanc from...
I have Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
I still have rosé of Grenache and rosé of Petit Syrah.
Okay.
So those were all the spring release.
Yeah.
Along with this Zinfandel, which I wanted to just taste with you guys today, because this is available also. Although this is getting down there. So, but again, another wine that super excited with the new vineyard source and to be able to work with these things. So, but Chris Yaron, I wish you were here tasting this with us.
Gloom Boy. Yeah, we'll see him on Friday. Actual Grenache Day.
Yeah, lots going on this weekend, man.
This is a crazy week, but as I was telling my dad, I was just talking to my dad. He's moving from North Carolina to Washington State, and him and his wife are going through.
A change.
Yeah, and they're driving, and so they're going to all the sites they want to see. They went to the Field of Dreams yesterday. And now they're going to see Mount Rushmore tomorrow. They went to the site of Elvis Costello's and the Big Bopper plane crash.
No. Elvis Costello was not on that flight.
Definitely
Elvis
not.
Costello is still alive.
Different. Okay, hold on. Different. They went to the crash of
the Big
Buddy
Bopper,
Holly.
Buddy Holly. Thank you, Buddy Holly
and Richie Valens.
And Richie Valens,
Yeah.
and then. So they've just been sending all these pictures, but they're hitting all the little it's like they're on Route 66, but they made their own Route 66.
Right.
Rushmore is actually cool. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, look back to North by Northwest for that. I mean,
Right.
It's just amazing. All right, let's try that Zin. Where is this from?
So this is from the Rancho Agua Caliente Ranch, or Rancho Agua Caliente Vineyard, which is off of Madrone Road, or on Madrone Road. It's what is now Abbott's Passage. Historically, it's known as Valley of the Moon Winery.
Who owned that?
Gunlock Bunchu does.
Oh, no. I mean, Valley of the Moon.
Valley of the Moon, I don't know if it even exists anymore. It was a Canadian company.
Okay.
The Parducci family owned it originally.
All right.
And the Parducci's sold Valley of the Moon to Kenwood Winery about 1997 or so. Kenwood owned it for years and remodeled it and rebuilt the winery. At the time that Corbel / Kenwood sold, they sold that off to a Canadian family, which I don't remember, who owned wineries up there, and they had one winery down here. And at that point, I don't know what's happened to it at this point. I'm not sure it exists anymore.
Hey, it's a beautiful spot anyway.
It is. It's, it's...
But so this is 2020 Zinfandel from this vineyard.
Right.
Going forward, what other Zinfandel vineyards are you sourcing?
So we received this in 2021.
Okay.
Also, this year, for reference, we're planning on getting grapes from Gopher Run again.
Okay.
Which is again in that same area on Carriga Road near Lazy Dog. And then we're getting
you're
Los
so
Chamazal.
lucky. You don't have to drive very far to go check on grapes. You just drive down the hill from your house.
Brian, this was Like it would have been like when in the early days of Instagram, when I'd go on and I'd see all these guys like, we're in Amador and we're in Santa Cruz, or all these places, still all these people driving all over, going looking at grapes.
Yeah.
Like that'd be really fun to make wine from all those places.
Yeah.
But for my whole career, I've been right here.
Yeah.
You know, and
because you can see these vineyards with a pair of binoculars on your deck. You can see these vineyards.
Yeah, and you can get to them all the time, and you know, and
That's great.
Like my number one job is still father of Dane.
Yeah.
Right. Like
totally.
the winery still unfortunately comes secondary to that.
Yeah.
So it works.
Yeah.
And you know, Sonoma Valley.
Yeah.
Like why drive anywhere when you have all these resources right here?
Totally, especially if you're making Rhones and Zin,
Right.
And then and then for some reason there's Malbec right by your house,
Right.
Which is crazy.
Just
And then the
someone to
Chenin
plant
Blanc.
some-
You just got to drive to see Chenin Blanc somewhere.
And won't it be nice
Yeah.
someday not to have to do that?
What, you're gonna
I'm not going to plan it, but I hope somebody will.
somewhere around here, or maybe Eric Bradley's parents will give up some of theirs.
No, Eric's making a very nice sparkling wine out of that wine right now.
Yeah,
That's
which
interesting.
Which is cool. All right, so it's kind of hard to go back to
So
this
it
after
is
drinking the
totally hard.
Malbec.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah,
is after we pour Cab Franc in the taste room, and the people
Right.
go, "Oh, can we try that Grenache or something?" You're like, "Yeah, but it's not gonna...
because the interesting thing about this wine is it's Zinfandel, and you know, and I'm repeating myself, but I'm going to say it again. Zinfandel is a somewhat delicate grape variety by itself. And when you start blending in things like Petit Syrah is to Zinfandel what Syrah is to Grenache, in my mind. Right. And this wine, this is planted in the 40s. It's an Italian field blend. Sorry, it's a field blend. It definitely has some other varieties in Zin. I think there's quite a bit of Carignan out there. There's definitely a little bit of Petit Syrah, but there's some other stuff. And so this wine is not on the like full-on massive Zinfandel blended with Petit and Alicante. It's a little more elegant. It shows a little bit more. One of the greatest compliments I ever had was someone said it tastes very agua caliente bench style. So, you know, the thought of this area starting at, let's call it the Sarah's Ranch, right? Going north. So Sarah is going into Bedrock, Hamel, B.R. Cohen, Old Hill, into Glen Ellen, the Lassiter property, like those, that's a bench. And there's all these, like the moguls, they call it the moguls of Glen Ellen. There was an article written one time. That area, it's warm. The soils are, you know, structured. It's all alluvial. It's all stuff that's fallen out of the mountains or washed down the mountains. So there's a certain amount of like elegance to this. It's not a monster wine.
I would totally agree.
And Zinfandel for me, a lot of times has wild. It's so different from other grapes. It's almost like you're picking blackberries after it rained or something. You get just wild aromas, wild flavors.
Yeah.
This definitely, there's some other things in here that are at play. Yeah.
So that's it. That is the fall harvest new releases from Dane Cellars.
Nice.
+1.
Are all 5 going out in the shipment?
No, there'll just be 4 wines will be going out in the shipment. People can order.
You only do
more.
four wines?
4 different wines. The shipments are either 2 bottles, 4 bottles, or 6 bottles.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or whatever people want.
Right.
So the people haven't quite figured out. People can decide if they really only want 2 bottles. They can figure out what 2 bottles they want. We're going to let them, you know, have that freedom, of course.
Right.
4 bottle people will get 1 bottle of each.
Right.
6 bottle will get. Again, we'll let them figure out. They'll get 1 of each, and then +2 and +2. So they can get 2020 Zin or Rosé or Sauvignon Blanc. So, and then Sauvignon Blanc from Beltane, getting that again this year.
Oh, cool.
And that's looking like it's probably about 2 weeks out from harvesting.
And the grapes have actually had a new experience this year because they've been getting Broadway songs being sung to
Right,
them
that's exactly
over
right.
the summer.
Right.
Which, if you believe in that whole stuff, you know, there's winemakers and distillers that play music for their juice when it's being distilled. These grapes have actually had Broadway musicals
Every year
sung to them
Right.
through the whole summer
And
from
Brian,
Transcendent.
Take that to humans. I just read an article about the future of medicine being music therapy and sound
Right.
therapy, things like that, because
Makes sense.
you can calm anybody down with just a couple of minutes of nice music. That's
Yeah.
it. And it just changes attitudes, and therefore it changes your health in a lot of stress situations and way beyond. So
as long as I've been doing this, like, music has always been like as long as I've been working in the wine industry. I mean, music is just part of my life. It always has to be going on. But, you know, when I was at Kenwood and we worked the bottling line, we could never really have music, and because it was just too loud. But when we were on the barrel pad, like, music was life,
Yeah.
you know. And during harvest, when you're on your 14th hour of a 16-hour
Need
day,
something to keep you going.
you need something to keep you going, something to
Yeah.
clear your head. So that's always been the way. That's why every year I make a harvest, you know, play track, and
you got that coming this year?
I'm still been working on it. But you know, a little shout out to Jimmy Buffett, who we lost here recently.
Yeah.
And I always say that I don't never considered myself a parrot head. I always kind of liked the songs you shouldn't know by heart, you know, his more obscure stuff.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that, like, those songs got me through a lot of long harvests, you know, thinking about being somewhere else than in the cellar, driving a forklift in, you know, the dark.
Yeah, no shit.
So
Thinking about
anyway.
Paris when I'm on red wine.
Yeah, you know.
Wish I could jump on a plane.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you guys.
Well, I mean, going forward, it looks like your sort of foundation is Chenin Blanc, right?
Yeah.
Always going to make a Chenin.
Yep.
You're always going to make a Zinfandel.
Yep.
Some sort of Rhone or Rhone blend.
Yep.
And then this Malbec might kind of make its way into the Dane Cellars.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to make Malbec, and I'd like to continue to make Cab. And I think that is the plan. You know, people love Cabernet. I may not drink it all the time, but I do like making it. And I like the source that I have with Steve's now, because it's more older California tradition rather than, you know, what's going on in other parts of the state with Cabernet.
Yeah.
You know, Sauvignon Blanc, now that I can keep getting it from Beltane, or heaven forbid me able to find something else and make a blend of, you know, two different ones, that would be great. So those are kind of the staples. Try to make some rosé. Yeah.
And how's it going with the reusable bottle situation?
I've got about 7 cases that have been returned back to me.
Cool.
Half of these wines that we poured today were in their, you know, repurposed glass. I'm going to keep it going forward.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to keep trying. Still collecting wines. I know there's a couple of podcast listeners that are waiting for me to send them UPS shippers so they can ship back some bottles to me. So I need to get on that. You know, maybe I'll send it out with their piece of amphora and their wine club shipment.
There you go.
And they can just refill the box.
Will you take any bottles back, or just your own?
No, we're only taking back our bottles. You know, the unique thing about this is, John, is I was all hot to, like, collect other people's bottles, and you know, I'm very fortunate that my labels come off very easy.
Yeah.
Most wine labels do not come off very easy.
Yeah.
And that's the whole problem with reusable bottles, is like getting the labels off, as we've talked about. But on the other hand, it's now that I'm making the rosé and the Sauvignon Blanc, and the labels coming off as easy as they are is actually a little bit of a hindrance. So we're working on that. We're working on some label stuff to try to, still be able to take the labels off, but not have them.
Someone's going to come up with a solution, because it's the one sort of like sticking point with the reusable glass and the labels, and I don't know what it is. It's like a label that peels off easily, more like a sticker. I don't know.
Yeah,
if someone can figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about when they get wet. It's all about when they, the bottles start to sweat, that the glue gives itself up. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. Like if you could just, get them to stick a little bit longer. I mean, we'll see. But you're right. It's all about that. Karen from Conscious Container, previous guest of the podcast, she says they have a glass company now that they've worked with, and they're going to be producing some glass that is built for returnable, and will actually say returnable bottle on it. So that's still moving forward. In the Willamette Valley of Oregon, there's a group that have put together, up there, they essentially use one type of bottle in all of Oregon. It's a burgundy bottle, right? And so they're perfect to do that. Yeah. And there's a group up there starting that process. Wow. And so, people are waking up to it.
Yeah. It's just even here at 16600, they got away from the old Auditet bottles.
Right.
God, those are heavy.
The new ones that were bottled are in lighter glass.
Yeah.
So where, if someone lives locally, where can they taste your wine? Who's pouring it right now? I think the Fairmont picked up something.
Fairmont has the Zinfandel.
Okay.
They may still have a little bit of Chenin Blanc. Sonoma's Best has a number of the wines, and Todd's very good about just opening anything if you want to taste it. Enoteca della Santina has some wines.
Oh, excellent.
Glen Ellen Star has the Zin by the Glass.
Cool.
Glen Ellen Market has the Valeria, the Zinfandel, the Rosé, and the Sauvignon Blanc.
Wow, nice.
All on the shelves. Thank you very much, Glen Ellen Market.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, we're out there. You can always contact me directly. I can't necessarily advertise tasting times, but if you contact me directly, I'm happy to figure out a time that works for us where we can get together and taste the wines.
Right.
We will be at the Vintage Festival in many capacities.
Let's talk about that.
Nice segue to the Vintage Festival.
Yeah, let's talk about the Vintage Festival. And I'm going to put it in your hands because you're in charge.
Yeah. So on Friday night is the Legends Dinner.
Wait, what's the date?
The 20. You always do this to me.
Well, it's a ways, but it's coming up.
Friday night, the 29th.
Okay.
Is the Legends Dinner at Valley of the Moon. At
B.R.
Cone Winery, right? Overlooking the beautiful Valley of the Moon on a harvest moon.
Oh, that's right. It's actually a full moon that night, right?
Yep.
This is gonna be cool.
Nice.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Chef.
It's Ari, right?
Ari
Is Ari?
from
Ari
the Glen Ellen
Weisswasser
Star,
from Glen Ellen Star,
and his catering company are doing the dinner. It'll be a four-course seated meal. Wineries hosting tables, bringing library wines and a few current releases, but really library wines and special release wines. It is a benefit dinner. It's for the Sonoma Valley Vintners Foundation. So the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers have a foundation that we are making contributions in donations to for the Sonoma Valley High School a scholarship fund. Okay. For the Sonoma Valley FFA and for the Mentoring Alliance.
Nice.
Okay.
So there's a small auction portion of this event. There'll be just 5 live auctions, and the proceeds from that will be donated to those 3 charities.
And then, as I understand it, tickets for the dinner are $350 a seat, correct? And then there's specific wineries that if you want to, I know that, for example, 16600, we're hosting a table. So like Sam is going to be there bringing a bunch of library wines.
Yep.
I know Burns is taking up 4 seats at our table. So we still have, 4 seats at our table.
Right.
Unless you're coming and sitting at our table.
No, because I'm hosting my own table.
Oh,
nice. And I have,
okay, cool.
right now, I think I have 4 tickets left at my table. So some people have gotten have purchased tickets for my table. So if you'd like to come and sit with us, somehow I think we'll be back to back. Sam and I will be sitting back to back, so we can pour bottles back and forth.
I know, nice, right? Wouldn't that be cool if we can get tables right next to each
Right.
other? What are you planning on pouring?
I think I know somebody that might be able to help
What are you
us with
planning on pouring?
Well, I have 2012 Cabernet from the Lassiter's property.
Really?
I have a few bottles of that. Juicy Creek.
Juicy fruit. Okay, cool.
I actually have some 2007 Cab and Zin from Dane Cellars.
Really?
That I'm going to open them up and see how they're tasting before and see those. I might bring those.
Cool.
I have some 2009 Syrah from Juicy Creek,
Which I've
that's
had.
tasting
It's
good.
actually really good. Yeah.
And then I'll bring some of these new wines, and
Okay.
and I might even go into my cellar and bring a couple bottles from my previous employers to share with the group. I just recently picked up a couple old bottles of Kenwood and Benziger wine, so just something that I had at least had my fingers in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So that's Friday night, and then Saturday is
So Saturday all day in the plaza, starting with the fun run is back. So there's a 5K fun run, the Vintage Festival run, and then there will be the traditional blessing of the grapes.
Okay.
They will reenact the Vallejo Harristy wedding, and then there's a festival in the plaza all day. Along with there's artists will be there. There'll be the water fights, the grape stomp. There's a children's area.
Okay.
There'll be food vendors. There'll be a beer vendor. There'll be wine tasting in the plaza.
Right.
And I believe the fire department are bringing back the water fight.
Oh shit.
So
Okay, cool.
It's a full on.
We're going back.
Yep,
Yeah.
we're going back.
It's a party.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's Saturday. So then the big grand tasting is on Sunday at the barracks.
No,
Saturday
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yep.
And that's at the barracks, right?
At the
Okay.
barracks. And
This is all this month?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And so there'll be
Don't
over
plan on
there'll
any
be
sleep,
over
Brian.
40
No.
wineries at
Yeah.
the barracks tasting.
Yeah.
And I think 10 or 12 restaurants, local restaurants serving food. And it's going to be fun. The live music.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay. And so nothing going on Sunday.
nothing going on
Okay,
Sunday.
thank
Sunday
God.
is
Okay,
recovery.
so Sunday day off.
Right.
Um,
Unless you guys are planning on like picking up, the strays, maybe another vinyl Sunday on Sunday, recovery vinyl Sunday.
we actually might be. I know we have David Gans coming and doing a vinyl Sunday, but I think that's October.
Okay.
Thank God.
Give yourself a break, man.
You know what, we're having
need
fun.
a day off.
Ryan is Mr. Event.
Well, and what I told my dad this morning, I said, we're not doing brain surgery here. He's like, oh, it sounds like you're really busy. I'm like, yeah, but it's all fun stuff. Like, we're having a good time.
Right.
Well,
Popping
that's
bottles
the
of
ultimate
foreign wine.
idea.
Right. And if you're listening to this on Friday, happy International Grenache Day, and we're having a little party tonight on the back porch of the Girl in the Fig. If you're listening to it and you want to drop by, bring a bottle of Grenache. Saturday is the dinner at Sweet D. Go to Fig Caters, figcaters.com. There might be some tickets still available, and its wines are just going to be lining the whole table, that are sort of wines that are left over from Hospice de Rhone and from Jeb Dunnick's tasting that he does of
there you go.
Paso and slow wines. Whenever you do a tasting, you have to send in 2 bottles in case one is corked or flawed. So there's these little cases of wine sitting out there, and then John Toolsey, the owner and chef of the Girl in the Fig, posted the other day that he has some Cinquenon. I saw some 11 Confessions boxes, and so it seems like we're going to be drinking maybe some Saxum and Cinquenon, and then a bunch of local shit. And then Sunday is a concert, which
Just a bunch of local wine.
Not yet.
local wines. Thank you.
I mean, it kind
Local
of was
Grenache.
it was kind of like Sequenon and then a bunch of local.
Yeah,
We're going to be drinking a bunch of local stuff, and there'll be this stuff from other parts of the state that'll be poured also.
Exactly. And probably going up to Walla Walla. I mean,
Right.
there might even be some Delma, some Force Majeure. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
And with the With the Vintage Festival, so just one last thing that I was kind of confused by, and I don't know if you can answer the question. So Robin Sebastiani was telling me that this is the 199th year harvest in Sonoma.
Yeah.
Which, when she said it, it didn't really register, and then I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute. Buena Vista was started in like 1857.
54.
So what
I
are we?
think.
So next year is going to be the 200th harvest for Sonoma. But what is that? What is the reference point for the first harvest? Because I can't find that many years in my.
For me, it's 1854. But
Well, no. So that was the start of the wine business. Okay. When Gunlock Bunchu,
Commercial.
the years when Gunlock Bunchu, and then when Buena Vista started.
Right.
Okay, so but there is historical data showing that grapes were harvested 199 years ago, probably having to do with the mission,
Okay.
right, and making wine
Right.
here in Sonoma Valley. And that is that is I can't reference exactly where it's from, but that's what that is from.
Okay.
The Vintage Festival was started, for all good intentions, was started by Gunlock Bunchu. And so I get this right. I'm gonna see if I can.
well,
So
personal consumption through the.
Well, no. So
Mission.
so that's what it was. It was through the church, right? Like, this is also the 200th anniversary. This year's the 200th anniversary of St. Francis Church. So that is where those historical things come from.
Okay.
So the Vintage Festival, which is, I think it's 137th year this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just read this because I think it's interesting. Here's an origin story for you. Did you know that the Vintage Festival was founded by Gunlock Bunchu and the Dressel families as a celebration of the defeat of Phylloxera, which literally happened in our backyard?
Huh.
Now, the Dressel family, that is the property where Scribe stands.
Okay.
So that's that old farmhouse. That's all part of it. So those
Right.
three families were among the early farmers here.
And they totally connect right to Gunlock Bunchu.
Right.
Yeah.
While scientists across the world were exploring various means to defeat this disease that was decimating vineyards, it was a series of experiments carried out by Julius Dressel and Jacob Gunlock on the Rhine farm in the late 1870s that helped to validate the specific disease-resistant rootstock. So that is where the celebration came from, Gunlock Bunchu starting the Vintage Festival. And there was a play that was put on at that time. So that's where the Vintage Festival came from. It was their festival for a long time, then it became a community thing.
Okay.
So it's the longest standing festival in the state of California.
Wow.
So they really have no cure for phylloxera. They just have resistant.
Yeah, I mean,
rootstock.
phylloxera is always going to be there. The nematodes are out there in the dirt as we speak.
I hate nematodes.
Right, and it's just a matter of controlling the balance in the soil, and so that goes along with soil health, and it goes along with rootstock that is resistant. So
Okay, so if people want to get, I mean, if they want to come to any of the Grenache Day stuff, the dinner on Saturday, you can go to figcaters.com. By the time this show comes out, I don't know that there's going to be any tickets left for the concert. We're basically sold out, but I mean, it's a barn, so we could sell a few extra tickets. You can go to winery16600.com and see if there is some tickets still for the concert. And then for the Vintage Festival, if people want to get tickets for the Legends dinner to sit at your table or Sam's table, where do they go?
you can buy tickets at God, you'd think we were like professionals.
Well,
Hold on, I got it.
okay.
Someone should fill in.
Because it's
I mean,
not.
if you're still listening,
No, because it's not vintagefestival.com and it's not Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers.com. It's
you can get there by Sonoma Valley Vintners, SonomaValleyWine.com.
Okay.
But it is.
Wait for it.
I know it's terrible because then my link takes me to Eventbrite,
Okay.
It's the Valley of the Moon VintageFestival.com.
Wow. Yeah, that made
Valley
it
of the
easy.
Moon VintageFestival.com.
Okay, and held at BR Cone Winery, which
Friday night.
yeah,
Which
Friday
is essentially like the center. You know, if Madrone Road is the center of Sonoma Valley, it's about, you know, a 5-iron from there.
night. Right. And
For you
last year it was
golfers.
at Buena Vista Winery. We had a good
Correct.
time. It was, and John Charles Boisset was sort of our hostess with the mostess that night.
And he might have been over the top a little bit.
Just
a little
maybe.
bit.
Okay,
Just a
it's
little
actually Valley of the Moon VintageFestival.org.
.org.
There
Okay,
you go.
cool.
Well, come on out. Have a good time. Make sure you get your tickets for everything. And
Yeah.
involved. It's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, busy month.
We have a bunch of shows scheduled coming up. None of them come to my head right now, but I think it's time for us to do a listener's questions podcast here soon. And during harvest, there's no winemakers really.
When
wanna
we
see
have,
us.
I mean, we have Dan Goldstein sitting in the green room. We got Heidi Barrett sitting in the green room. We got the Brown Estate crew sitting in the green room waiting to do shows. But it's harvest, and so now as we get closer to actually picking grapes, people that we have been talking to about coming on the show are now starting to get a little bit busy. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
But we'll fill in. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And in October, we've got our 300th episode coming up.
Oh no shit.
Which is really cool.
Okay.
It's been a long, fun road,
Long,
guys.
strange trip.
Yeah, it has. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely it has. From my house to your house to the back deck here, it's been wonderful. Yeah, really having a good time. And if you guys could see here, I mean, we're just looking out at the bluest sky. Not a cloud in it, man. Beautiful.
And the weather here has been so great. It's been 80. GLS, great. It's been 80 degrees during the day, and it gets down to like 50. I don't know where it is
Yeah.
at your house, Bar, but it's
Yeah.
getting down to like 50 something at night. So we've, this is perfect.
It's
time.
been
All right.
51
like I gotta
to
go to work, yeah.
85 recently. So, all right, everybody, thanks for listening. Bart, any other shout outs, man?
No, just
right.
drink more Dane Cellars.
That's a good idea, man. All right. As the GLS truck pulls up for shipments, we are out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next week.